Hi, I am Miramay, and I am here with Sweet Spectre. Some of you guys might remember us. I know it's been a while. But you are listening currently to the 13 Club podcast, brought to you by the two of us, a.k.a. Ominous Glitch.
Mm-hmm.
If some of you may have already heard, I'm not sure which one is going to come first, but if you haven't, you may want to consider checking out, we did a little catch-up episode where you can learn about what's going on in our lives, why we've been gone for so long, what we've been up to, and what we hope to be up to with the podcast going forward. So if you haven't listened to that yet, you might want to. But if not, that's totally cool, because we are here to talk about some spooky stuff for you.
Yep.
And that's, I assume, why most of you are still here at all. So
if this is your first episode, don't even worry about the past ones. Just get to know us now.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything you want to get into, or do you think it's all mostly covered in the catch-up episode?
I feel like it's, I guess we should just say that, like, we will be going back to a regular schedule now.
Can you repeat what our schedule is for people who might be new?
So, we do, 1 week is the post-mortem, which is just a little, like, catch-up and, like, some little snippets about any small topics that we've seen, like a cool, scary Reddit story, or a show that you've been liking, or a movie that you watched, or a comic. And then the regular episodes happen on the alternating week, and we post episodes on Tuesdays. So from here on out, you'll get something to listen to every Tuesday.
Yep. And sometimes the postmortems are also updates on whatever our bigger topic was from a week prior.
Yeah.
So
that's actually
the
primary reason for them. I don't know why I just explained it like that.
No, because that's what we started it with, and then we realized, like, not everything is going to have an update, but we still have something we want to share. Yeah. So, and not everything needs a full episode. So, they're fun little grab bags, and hopefully you guys will enjoy them. Yeah. Also, we usually say this at the end of the episode, but I'm going to bring it up to the top. This is being recorded as an audio podcast, but we also are recording it as a video. So if you like to watch things, this will be up on YouTube as well. So there you have it.
YouTube channel is just Ominous Glitch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ominous Glitch. OMINO. Oh, fuck.
OMINOUS. Glitch.
Thank you.
GLITCH.
Well, do you want to start, or would you like me to start?
I will start, because that usually works out best for us, since I do the little superstition at the end if we're still doing that.
Yeah. Sure. I don't have any reason not to.
Okay.
But it's up to you.
So, I went to Ireland. I went there for about 12 days, and I had the best time of my life. My heritage is Irish on both sides of my family, and my husband's family is Irish. My new last name is Irish, and I've always wanted to go. I've been to England, I've been to Scotland, but I had not been to Ireland, and boy, like, was I missing out. So I had basically the best trip I've ever had going anywhere, and one of the coolest things about it is that my father-in-law was super awesome and would try to find places for me to go and see that he knew would be spooky, because he supports that he supports the dream. So I guess I'll go in order of, I have 3 things I want to cover, 3 like particularly cool spooky places that I went. And, I'll talk about each one of them. So, the first one is Kennedy Castle. And I don't want to, like, brag, but my father-in-law actually owns Kennedy Castle. And it's in, it's in County Offaly, which is in the middle of nowhere. But it is the most magical place on earth. It is a hotel, so if you ever are in Ireland and you feel like you want to go stay at a castle and hike around amazing forest trails and maybe ride horses and maybe see some ghosts, definitely go there. And there are two places, or so Kennedy Castle has a long history, and I guess I won't get too into it because I just worry that I will not have time for everything. I don't want this episode to be, like, crazy long. But Kennedy Castle functioned as a few different things. It was a school at one point, it was a monastery at one point. And there are two main ghost stories at Kennedy Castle.
I'm ready. One
of them is, I guess I'm just paraphrasing at first, but I do have, like, a little article to read. So there's a monk whose name is Hugh, which is he's commonly seen around, and people have experienced things involving Hugh, and Hugh has his own room. And then there's Geraldine, and Geraldine was an employee, and she has her own room, which is the room I stayed in, and we had more experience. We actually did have some experiences, and more so with the Hugh aspect of things than Geraldine. So I'll just quickly cover our experiences with the Geraldine. The room was the Geraldine room. Yeah. And that's when, if you talk to anyone about the haunted room at Kennedy, they're always like, oh, the Geraldine. So it's like a smaller room. Supposedly, Geraldine likes to open doors and sort of, like, walk around. And I did have an experience where I set up a recorder, and at the time, we were the only people in the castle because the staff went away for Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. So it was just the family there in the castle. And we all went out to the pub in the main little town of Kennedy. And while I was away, somebody opened the door to our room and was walking around in there. I have, like, the recording of it, and there could have been no one.
Was this audio or video record?
Audio.
Okay.
I just left an audio recorder on the bed.
Okay.
And while we were gone, hours before we returned, there was somebody who opened our door, and it sounded like they were walking around.
Oh, shit. That's so cool.
I didn't experience any in-person things there. And so now I want, like, in the Geraldine. So I want to talk about this woman. Her name is the Haunted Housewife. And it's kind of crazy because I read her articles online about Ireland. And then she had some articles specifically about Kennedy. And one of them was what tipped me off to the Hughes room. And she actually is the cousin of a friend of my father-in-law and his girlfriend, who we stayed at their bed and breakfast. And she is literally her cousin, and was like, I will hook you up, you guys can talk. So I haven't reached out yet, but she's super rad, and she led me the right direction. And then it was crazy that she was like, oh yeah, that's my cousin.
So is that, like, for anyone who wants to look that up more, is that, like, a blog, The Haunted Housewife? Or?
Yeah, she has, like, some social media presence, but, like, the blog in particular that I am looking at is actually jimharold.com, so he had her on as a guest.
Oh, okay.
And she wrote some posts about her haunted trips to Ireland, and she went to Kennedy, and so I'm going to just read her experience at Kennedy. So she says, upon arrival, I immediately ingratiated myself to the staff, including the charming fellow named Connor, who was more than happy to share the castle's haunted history with me. This should be also noted that when she went, it was before my family owned it. So it was a previous owner. There were plenty of Ghorst stories. There were plenty of ghost stories associated with the castle. I learned of the more popular resident spirits of Kennedy, including a young woman named Geraldine and a monk named Hugh. Geraldine's spirit is known to favor the top floor of the castle and even has a room named for her. Hers is one of the more popular haunted rooms. She's spotted regularly emerging from shadowy corners, giving guests quite a fright. Some report seeing Geraldine as a red mist hovering over their beds or floating down the quiet castle corridors. Another active entity is Hugh, the monk of Kennedy. He had a reputation for being a jolly soul, much loved by all who knew him, but he had a dark side, a secret turmoil that brewed inside him like a poison. Eventually, the forced smiles and laughter couldn't mask his internal pain. Hugh did the unthinkable. He took his own life. Hugh remains at Kennedy Castle, a place where he lived both the happiest and saddest days of his life. He frequents the Abbey, the annex of the original building that houses several guest rooms, including my own. The other ghosts are known to haunt the castle, including that of a nameless male. He's described as a tall, dark-haired man with broad shoulders and a fearsome stance. He's of a more aggressive breed and recently pushed a guest down a flight of stairs. I was in no hurry to run into that guy. One evening I was settling into bed. I decided to try my luck with a bit of spirit communication. I was anxious to do as much paranormal investigating as I possibly could. I couldn't pass up this unique opportunity. I pulled out my crystal pendulum and portable spirit board mat, along with my trusty audio recorder. Pendulum in hand, I asked if there were any spirits with me. From complete stillness, the chain began to slide back and forth. I repeated the question almost immediately. I felt the pull of the crystal towards yes. Who is it? I asked. Pendulum moved at a maddening pace, which quickly spelled out H-U-G-H. I was amazed. I thought maybe my subconscious was responsible for the response by triggering micro movements in my hand, so I asked again. I got the same answer. I followed up with, "Are you the monk?" The pendulum once again indicated yes. "Are you alone?" I asked next. At this point, the pendulum motion began to change. Instead of the steadily back and forth swaying, it literally stopped dead, switched directions, and swung over to no. I almost dropped the chain. I was not moving it. A force outside of me seemed to control the movements, which were not subtle but most deliberate. I felt the energy in the room change, as if the air had been sucked out and replaced with something thicker, less breathable. I was surrounded by an ominous darkness, and a cold chill encompassed my body like a heavy wet blanket. I was not alone. I quickly grabbed my audio recorder and hoping I'd capture some sort of EVP. At first, I heard nothing but my own voice, asking questions and commenting on what was going on until the "Are you alone?" and a loud male voice responded, "No." I was so startled I dropped my recorder. There was no mistake. I captured a blood-curdling EVP in response to my question. I was most definitely not alone, and I don't think Hugh was my only ghostly guest. There was a darker, more malevolent spirit in that room with me. My body shivered at the thought. I felt another sudden icy cold air before the temperature returned to normal. Sudden rush of icy cold air. The veil of darkness lifted to a more natural level, and I could once again breathe easily. The ghosts were gone. Whomever or whatever I'd made contact with was gone. The excitement I felt was paired with a sense of relief. This was my only ghostly encounter at Kennedy Castle, and first of many in Ireland. My next stops were the legendary Leap and Charleville Castle, both thought to be among the most haunted castles in the world. My adventure had just begun. Okay, so I don't know if there's a way for us to hear her EVP, but like I said, her real name is Teresa Argy. And I have somebody who can contact her, so I'm wondering if there's a possibility I could get that EVP and maybe we could play it.
That would be incredible.
I will try. So I will talk about my experiences in Hugh's room, which were some of the most remarkable experiences I've ever had on a paranormal level. So I went up there with my husband, or I went down there rather. And these rooms are right above where the monastery was. And there's, according to the staff, they were like, "Oh yeah, there's so many graves down there, they just built right over them." And we went to Hugh's room because of that post. And we were in, at 2 a.m., went there. It was my husband and my brother-in-law. And we were sitting in there, and at first we were just talking, like I was trying to capture some EVPs, like nothing was really happening. Then we heard my brother-in-law Brady. He was out in the hallway. He was like, trying to do the Zach Bagans, trying to you know, try to provoke it. And he was being, like, a little loud, and a couple floors up, we had family. So I went out there to tell him, like, hey, can you keep it down a little bit? And my husband is not, I mean, you know him. He's not, like, he's not easy to spook, and he's also not easy to be gullible about this stuff.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
And, like, I am definitely one who will totally run with something, but he probably won't, and will probably tell me why I shouldn't. And we walked out of the room down the hallway, and Brady was way ahead, and I called to him, and I said, like, hey, Brady, and he's like, yeah, what's up? And Justin and I both heard clear as day what sounded like a woman going, and I was like, did you hear that? And he said, yes, I heard it. So I went back immediately to my recorder, tried to see if I caught it, but I didn't. But we definitely both heard it. And there was no women on the floor. Like, I was the only woman there. Everybody else was upstairs 2 floors in bed. And so then we went back into the room, and we were sitting there, and we decided that we would turn all the lights off. So we're sitting there for a while, and it seems like the room because we had blackout, like, there's blackout curtains in there. It's not well lit to begin with, because it's literally like a stone castle. So I'm laying there I'm sitting there on the bed, and like, Justin's in the chair, that's my husband, and Brady's, like, sitting on the other side of the bed. The bed is, like, 2 king-size beds put together. It's enormous. And we turned off all the light, and suddenly it looked like the room got, like, 4 shades darker. Like, the darkness got darker. And we looked up into the corner. It's sort of like the seam between the wall and the ceiling. You know, that corner.
Okay. Yeah. I
was looking up there, and I saw what looked like a blue light. And at first I was like, maybe you're just, like, hallucinating because you turned off the lights, and now you're still adjusting to the darkness. So I'm looking at it for a while, and then Brady goes, do you see that? Oh. And I was like, what? And he goes, like, that, like, blue light. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I thought it was just my eyes. And Justin looks up, he's like, where is it? And I pointed out to him, and he was like, yeah, I see that. So we start, like, immediately going into, like, debunkment mode.
Yeah, of course.
So we go up there, and we're like, we went to the floor above us, and we, like, looked in, like, is there any way that light could be getting in there? Well, 1, there was no lights on up there. And
right.
2, like, definitely no blue lights. And there was no possibility that light was getting through. Like, it was completely flush, like, and there was also a rug over all of it. So even if there was light, it probably wouldn't be coming through the rug. Now, I'm not saying 100% it was a ghost, but then we go back and we turn off the lights again, and we're sitting there, and we don't see it immediately. We sit there for a while, and I start talking to it, saying, like, if there's anyone here, you can talk to me. Like, I just want to know who you are. I want to know about you. And the light comes back. Everybody sees it. So we're talking for a while, and I'm just, like, asking if it's Hugh, asking a bunch, just regular, if anyone's ever hunted for spirits, asking a bunch of questions. And suddenly the light, there's 2. There's 2 lights. Okay. And they're, like, right next to each other. And then
Are they both blue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And everybody can see it. And then we're sitting there for a while, and we notice that there's another light that appears over the wardrobe. And we're all seeing them. And I start asking questions about Hugh, and I get this wave of sadness that is so intense that I start bawling my eyes out. And I mean, honestly, there was no reason for me to be sad. I was, like, in the coolest place in the world with the people I love. Like, I was super excited. I'm ghost hunting. Like, it's like my happy place.
Yeah.
And I just start fucking bawling. Like, bawling my eyes out. And I'm just like, I have a recording of me crying, but it was like, I'm like, it just feels so sad. It feels so sad. Like, is this why you killed yourself? Like, is this what it is? And my husband got really, really disturbed by it. And eventually, he was like, I don't want to be here. I want to leave. I don't want to be in here anymore. And we sat there for a while. Eventually, like, just like, pretty much quickly, I wasn't sad anymore. And it just lifted out of me. Wasn't sad anymore. And then we ended up getting up and leaving the room. We came back one more time before we left, and we were able, like, after sitting there for a while, we saw the lights again after talking for a while. I don't know what it was. And that was, like, that was one of the things, like, I think you saw, like, Brady's Facebook post, right? Or one of you did?
Charles might have.
Might have been my sister.
I don't think I'm friends with.
But she saw, like, I think it was my sister, but she was like, yeah, I saw Brady made a post that was like, I don't know what happened last night, and it's just something I can't explain, and I'm, like, racking my brain, and I can't figure it out. And, yeah, none of us could explain it.
That's really incredible, though.
Yeah, it felt like there was definitely something there. It felt really real. And... yeah, man. I don't know. Shit was crazy.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, feeling that deep sadness or whatever was a fun experience, but, like...
no, I think it was...
that seems like...
it was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to say, like... sounds like fun, because that's, like, a negative... oh, God, what's wrong with my voice? That's a negative emotion, but... to have that kind of interaction with something is really special.
It was fucking crazy, and I still don't know what happened. And when I think back on it, like, I keep thinking about, like, what I could have done differently to try to, like... I should also note that we tried to take photos of the lights, and we tried to record them, and they wouldn't show up on camera. And then my dad asked me, and I feel like a fucking idiot for not doing this, but my dad was also, like, really enthralled by this story. And he was like, what you should have done is you should have climbed on top of something and seen if you could touch them. Like, could you block out the light with your hand?
That I didn't think of that either, though. Even as you were telling the story, that didn't occur to me.
I was like, God damn it, I should have tried. I should have seen if I could, like, touch it, or if I could make the light go away. Like, if there is something in the wall or something that's blue that's showing up through there. But then the wardrobe one I can't explain.
Yeah, that one's weird.
I don't fucking know. That room is... that room is haunted.
So, remind me, that was Hugh's room that you were in, that you saw the blue lights? Mm-hmm. Or was that a different... okay.
Hugh's
I just
room.
wanted to be clear.
That was the light that she had the experience... or the room that she had the experience in.
Gotcha. And the no...
yeah.
Okay.
That was the same room.
That's super crazy.
So, I don't want to, like, take up too much time, so I'll let you guys sit with that. And then I think maybe, like, something cool for the postmortem could be I could, like, interview my husband or Brady about the experience, and they could share, like, their view on it, sort of.
Yeah, like a secondhand account.
Yeah. So then, the next, or I guess during those 2 nights that we were there, my father-in-law got me an appointment with, the owner of Leap Castle. And Leap Castle is actually, like, considered the most haunted place in Ireland.
Yeah.
And,
Leap Castle, while you're doing that, like, Leap Castle is one of those places that, like, I am not going to pretend to be, like, an expert in, like, haunted places worldwide, or even that I know much about Leap Castle, but that is something I've definitely heard of.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the kind of thing, even if you're, like, slightly remotely interested in haunted places, that's a name you were familiar with.
So, yeah, and there's a reason for that. So, this is from the Leap Castle website, which is leapcastle.net. It's one of the longest continually inhabited castles of Ireland. Leap Castle has a rich and fascinating history. By the way, if you want to look it up, it's L-E-A-P, like leap, but it's pronounced Leap. Leap Castle is thought to have been built in the early 1500s by the O'Bannon clan. The O'Bannon clan were the secondary chieftains under the ruling of the O'Carroll clan. The current building is thought to have been built over an earlier castle before that site was used by druids for initiation ceremonies. The castle has been home to much bloodshed and violence over the centuries. It has what is called the Bloody Chapel. And it says, the Bloody Chapel is the home to many of the spirits of Lep Castle. People passing the castle at night have reported bright light streaming out of the upper windows. This occurrence has been reported since the time of the Darbies, when the castle was left a burnt-out shell after the 1922 burning. This event was also reported by passers-by. Even now, neighbors have telephoned the Ryans, who own it now, and informed them of the chapel's illumination. Strange smells of rubber have been also reported during people's visits to the upper hall. One of the most well-known is referred to as the O'Carroll priest. So one of the more sinister features of the Bloody Chapel is the obolette. The obolette is a small chamber located in the northeastern corner of the Bloody Chapel. It is thought the original use for the chambers was to store valuables. They were also used as a place to hide in the event of a siege. The O'Carrolls, however, used this chamber for a more sinister purpose. They modified this chamber to serve as a small dungeon where prisoners were thrown in, dead and dying. The entrance to the chamber was a narrow hole fitted with a form of a trapdoor. The name is derived from the French word to forget. Yeah. Once someone was thrown into the oubliette, they were simply forgotten about. The O'Carrolls were said to be an extremely cunning and brutal clan, stopping at nothing to achieve domination. Legends tell of several occasions where the O'Carrolls would employ other clans as mercenaries to kill off nearby threats. Upon completion of the job, the mercenaries were invited back to the Lep Castle for a celebratory feast. Unfortunately for the mercenaries, the feast was poisoned and their throats were cut. The corpses were then thrown into the oubliettes. 39 of the O'Neill clan are said to have been disposed of in this fashion.
No loose ends.
Yeah, in 1599... another deadly deed occurred at Lep Castle. Charles O'Carroll, the last chieftain at Lep, was at war with the Earl of Tyrone and hired by the McMahon clan from Monaghan as mercenaries. After they had fought him, the O'Carrolls had held a feast for the mercenaries. They were then murdered in their sleep. The McMahon clan are said to haunt the Great Hall at Lep Castle. During the occupation of Lep Castle by the Darbies, the oubliette was cleaned and the contents was removed and when some of the renovations were carried out. It is said that 3 cartloads of skeletons, and these are like big horse-drawn cartloads, they were just full of skeletons. And they were removed from the oubliette during this period. I
want to know what they did with them.
Some believe that since this gruesome discovery, an emotional shockwave was sent through the castle, and many spirits, including the elemental, were woken from their dormancy. Sean Ryan, who's the current owner, I could talk to Sean Ryan for days at a time. He is one of the most knowledgeable people I have ever met. He actually knows Zach Bagans. We talked a lot about Zach. And
your other husband?
Nah, I'm trying to marry him off to my sister. And he said that Sean Ryan speaks of a man who seems to live in the oubliette. He leaves the Bloody Chapel on occasion and wanders down to the lower levels of the chapel. So I went there during the day. I filmed. I didn't have any experiences. I think it was because there was like a big group of people and it just was like 10 a.m. kind of situation. But he has invited me to return and do an overnight investigation. I would like to have a group to go with. I'm not sure how that's going to plan out. I am returning to Ireland in 2020. So, we'll see. We'll see who can go. So the other hauntings, the one that he told me about, so there are a few, and honestly, I'll save like maybe a couple of these for the post-mortem next week. This place is just so fucking haunted. But he told me of a particular story that when I heard the story, I felt like chills. It was one of the most rad ghost stories I've ever heard, and I'm trying to get it to load.
I'm so ready. By the way, so, like, anybody, while she's waiting for this to load, while she was in Ireland, she would text me periodically. It was around Christmas, so we were both, like, you know, kind of busy. She's doing travel stuff. I'm with, you know, Charles's family, whatever. But she would be like, oh my god, I did this today, or this is so fucking haunted, we're going to talk about it on the podcast. I have been on pins and needles since late December hearing these stories. This is not something I've heard before. This is all stuff I'm hearing for the first time, so I am right there with you guys, and I'm so excited.
Come on. I'm trying to get it to load. Oh, I got it. Okay.
You got it. Okay.
Okay, so this one's short. But it says 2 girls have also been seen at Leap Castle. They are mainly seen playing in the main hall and running up the stairwell. They are believed to have lived at the castle during the 1600s. Emily died at age 11 after falling from the castle's southeastern battlements. Some people outside the castle have reported seeing a girl falling off the castle roof and disappearing before hitting the ground. Charlotte has been seen with a deformed leg that drags backwards behind her. Mildred Darby has also seen a young girl at Leap Castle, and her encounter is as follows. Another night I was sleeping with my little girl. I awoke and saw a girl with long fair hair standing at the fireplace, one hand at her side and the other on the chimney place. Thinking at first it was my little girl, I felt on the pillow to see if she were gone, but she was fast asleep. There was no fire or light of any kind in the room. Now, what he told me that made me, like, just a little, like, honestly, I'm not easily creeped out, but I was like, oh, damn. He said, so there's actually an article, I'll load it, just because it might take some time, about their governess, who also stays in, oh, it's really short, so I'll just do that first. The governess or nanny is more frequently seen in the main hall and is often seen with the 2 girls, Emily and Charlotte. It appears that visitors of Leap seem to have more interaction than the current owners. Guests have reported being touched or having someone brush past them. A friend of Sean Ryan's was having lunch at Leap Castle one day, and both him and another female guest sitting near the fireplace saw a proud lady in Victorian attire on the wall, like against the wall, diagonally across from the main hall. After discussing what they both saw, the previously skeptical neighbor had changed his thoughts. And so they say that she touches people, but she's often, like, accompanied. They see her either before or after following along behind the 2 little girls. Now, they hear the little girl Charlotte dragging her deformed leg around the house. Like, they hear, like, thump, 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 thump. And as far as the other little girl, Emily, who fell from the battlements, they say, and Sean told me this with a straight face, and I totally believe him, that they hear a scream outside, and the scream cuts off suddenly. Like, it was like her falling and hitting the ground.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So
there's actually, like, a Ghost Adventures episode on it. There's a Ghost Adventures episode on Kennedy as well, but I'm, like, slightly salty about it because that was when the previous owner owned it, and he was not the best person. And so the last thing I have for you guys is I went to the Galway Cathedral, and I have a little thing here. In 1484, the Church of St. Nicholas in Galway became a collegiate church with a warden and vicars. However, the Reformation, after 1570, the Catholic people of Galway lost the right to practice their religion publicly. Mass was celebrated in private houses until the rigor of persecution moderated, and a parish chapel was built in Middle Street in about 1750. With the establishment of the diocese in 1831, the parish church became its pro-cathedral. A fund for the building of a more fitting cathedral was inaugurated in 1876, which was built by successive bishops. In 1941, Mr. Eamon Corbett TD, chairman of the Galway County Council, acting on behalf of the council, handed over the key of the disused Galway jail on the Nuns' Island to Bishop Michael Brown as a site for the proposed new cathedral. The old jail was demolished in 1949. John J. Robinson of Dublin was appointed the architect for the new cathedral. Planning continued until 1957, when Pope Pius XII approved the plans submitted to him by Dr. Brown. Cardinal D'Alton and the Archbishop of Armagh blessed the site and the foundation of stone on 27th of October 1957. The construction, which began in 1958, was undertaken by Messrs. John Sisk Limited of Dublin. The people of the diocese contributed to a weekly collection, and donations were received from home and abroad. The total cost, including furnishing, was almost 1 million Irish pounds. Pope Paul VI appointed Cardinal Richard Cushing, Archbishop of Boston, pontifical legate to dedicate the cathedral, which took place on the Feast of Assumption on the 15th of August 1965. So the thing that, like, it's kind of hard to find information on, but when you go there, they have, like, I wish I had just taken pictures of the board, but they talk about the oppression of the Catholic people there in Ireland and how they weren't allowed to practice, and how that also the jail beneath it was, like, basically a jail for the undesirables. And I didn't really expect anything to happen there. And the cathedral is really beautiful. And I just walked in and I was filming, and I have a lot of shots of it. And I was just walking through, and I felt somebody pull my arm, like right at my elbow. Just somebody like grab, like as if to like stop me or redirect me. And I definitely thought it was my husband, because it felt like a normal, just a person touching me. Mm-hmm. And I turned around. My husband was nowhere near me. He had been like over in the front, like up to the left, and there was no one who could have touched me.
Wow.
And so that was like, I would say that was the last like major experience I had there in Ireland.
You did tell me about that one.
It was crazy. Literally just, I definitely felt something touch me.
Is there any, like, ghosts in resident there? I
couldn't find anything. So, like, even when we started this at the beginning, I was, like, Googling, like, Galway Cathedral ghosts, and I couldn't find anything. But I will do, like, a deeper dive on it and see if I can find any experiences. Like, sometimes, like, another fun thing for, like, a post-mortem is that, even some of the Kennedy Castle TripAdvisor reviews talk about the experiences that they had at Kennedy. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes like to look under, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good place. I think, like, people might not think to look for people sharing their ghost experiences.
Yeah.
But that's totally valid, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So that's, that was a lot. But
it was great.
That's all I got for now. I could tell you more, and I feel like I might roll out more throughout my new episodes. But yeah.
Those were really good, and I am glad I waited to hear them, because I feel like trying to tell me over a text message would not have done it the full, like, what it deserves or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the story about the blue lights especially is very powerful to me. And I'm sure it was to you. You lived it, so I don't know why I'm bothering to even say that. But
No. I'm glad that it comes off as something that's not just a crazy person that was like, I saw blue lights and I cried in a room.
No, I mean, I'm... Okay. Possibly to someone who doesn't know you as well, I guess it might sound a little, like, much. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, A, I mean, I do know you, and I know that you wouldn't make something like that up, and B, it doesn't sound much, you know? Like, I think somebody who hears the story of the, like, I captured, this sound or this voice or whatever, that might sound like much, quote unquote, but like something about and I mean, I believe those things can be real as well, but like lights, unexplained lights and emotions can come across as more sincere to people that aren't necessarily as open to this kind of thing.
I also feel like it's just not the kind of experience you would ever expect to have.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think maybe that might be why it rings so true.
Well, I'm glad you believe me. If people don't, I'm okay with it.
Was there ever any question that I would believe you?
No, but I'm just saying, like, if anyone else, like, just doesn't believe it, I'm totally cool with that. You do not need to call me out on my BS, because I know what I saw.
Exactly. Well, I have, moving into mine, is there anything else you want to add or throw in there before we do?
I feel like that's good for now.
I'm going to be thinking about that blue light story, I think, all day. That was really... it made me want to talk about, and I've been saying this since, our previous episodes a million years ago, but, like, I really want to talk about the, like, little spooky West Virginia trip that we did a little while ago, and specifically, those stories reminded me of the experiences that I had in the Lowe Hotel in Point Pleasant. West Virginia, that I would love to talk about, that you know about, but like...
well, I don't feel like I've heard, like, the full story. I've heard, like, bits and pieces of it from you and from Charles, but not the whole shebang.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, like, I remember we wrote about it and put it up on the site, but, like, to tell it would be, like... It would be a mix of me, like, reading over what I wrote at the time, when, you write stuff down so you remember it.
Yeah.
But, like... also, like, what I, like, vividly remember and felt. But, like, that was those are so good. I loved your stories. Thank you. I have, this week, 2 topics prepared, and I can, like, let you pick which one, and I'll save the other one for next time.
Okay.
The reason I don't just go with one of them is because I, like, sincerely do not mean to do this. Like, I absolutely did not mean to do this. But, like, I picked a topic that is North Carolina adjacent again. And I don't want to be that person. I feel like it sounds like I'm just constantly talking about North Carolina because I'm from North Carolina. But
that's fine.
I don't. So that there's one that's North Carolina adjacent and one that's a little bit more of, like, urban legendy kind of stuff.
Go with the North Carolina one. It sounds like that's the one you're excited about.
I'm excited about. I mean, they're both pretty good. But, okay, I'm going to do this one because it was the first one I had done. I had completed.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the Brown Mountain Lights. Is this something you've heard of before?
No.
Okay. I made a note to myself to ask my dad about it. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But my dad is...
Postmortem.
Yeah, postmortem. I'll ask Dad. My dad is the one who introduced me to the Brown Mountain Lights when I was in my, like, early teens. And here is what I wrote. Okay. Brown Mountain is located in Morganton, North Carolina, which is roughly a 2-hour drive from where I grew up, but it's still visible from that area. Like, the mountains that are in Morganton, you can see from the town where I'm from. For decades or longer, certainly longer than I've been alive, there's been a curious visual phenomena appearing across the Brown Mountain Range called, appropriately enough, the Brown Mountain Lights. When I was a kid, I remember whenever any discussion came up about weird or creepy things in the area, this was one of the most commonly mentioned things, even from a distance of nearly 100 miles. The Brown Mountain Lights are a visual phenomena usually appearing as glowing orbs, often red in color. According to people who have seen them, they appear to rise from the treetops, hover in place, and then disappear, sometimes appearing elsewhere above the ridge shortly afterwards. How long the lights have been making their appearance above the mountain is up for debate, but they've been a part of the local landscape for at least the last century. There's a common misconception that the earliest recorded mention of the lights was September 24th, 1913, in the Charlotte Daily Observer, but I actually found another source who had an article from September 11, 1913, and then another one 6 months before that So, like, March 1913, from what was one of my local newspapers when I lived back home, the Asheville Citizen-Times. And to kind of sum up these 3 articles as sort of like the first recorded incidents of these lights, the first known reports of lights seen on or near Brown Mountain, and this is from an article written in 1913, said that the first reports were in 1908 or 1909 by members of the Morganton Fishing Club. Someone named B.S. Gaither was the club member who saw the strange phenomena, but the members of the club were ridiculed and belittled for their claims, which is likely why the details of the reports don't appear to have ever been published. What did get the attention of local papers was the fact that on February of 1913, a Mr. R.T. Claywell of Morganton, who was in Washington campaigning for a congressman from Asheville, took the time out to visit the offices of the U.S. Geological Survey and described to them the reports he had heard from friends of the strange lights on the mountain. Clayton got the director of the Geological Survey, Mr. George O. Smith, to assure him an agent of the survey would be sent to investigate the strange lights immediately. Clayton had not seen the lights himself, but heard from trusted friends that the lights appeared at around 9 p.m. each night with, quote, remarkable regularity. In July of that year, Claywell, who was the person who I think was in Washington campaigning, was staying at a cottage near the Cold Springs Hotel on an area called Rattlesnake Knob with 8 friends when they all saw the lights for themselves. The September 11th article that I mentioned recounted that on July 31st, which was the 4th night of their stay, everyone was up later than usual, sitting out on the cottage porch and talking, and at exactly 10:05, the company noticed 2 hazy lights across the valley on Brown Mountain at 2 different spots. Everyone was focused on the 2 strange lights when a few minutes later a brighter light appeared at the foot of Brown Mountain where Upper Creek cuts it at Joy. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but that's what the article says. I'm sure Upper Creek is a place, but I don't know where Joy is. This new light appeared to be swinging to and fro like a pendulum and rose to a height of about 200 feet. As the round light rose, it changed from a yellow color to a redder tone as it got higher up until it appeared like a flaming red ball, but it didn't seem to cast off light or glow. Its shape was very defined against the dark sky without emitting any light. He estimated this light across the valley from the cottage at a distance of about 12 miles. When the red ball reached an estimated height of 1,200 feet, it disappeared behind a rain cloud and wasn't seen again. Everyone was astounded. One of the women in attendance fainted. Clayton suspected that they could have seen this strange sight on the other 3 nights if they'd stayed up and out long enough into the evening, though realistically nothing in this particular report would show that this was a recurring event. The details of this event became publicly known when it was published in the September 11th newspaper, which further explained that Clayton was back in Washington again, and then explained the bit about him going to the Geological Survey to ask them to investigate it. The September 24th article, the one that everyone thinks is the first appearance, and the first recorded appearance, is a little bit more, like, vague, and that's the one that mentions the Morganton Fishing Club, who had seen it, and then, like, but, like, their details were never made known because they got, like, shit on so hard, I guess, for coming forward about what they saw. Yeah. So, that was kind of like my mishmashed together summary of the history of these articles. Maybe unnecessary, but I thought it was interesting that there's this really commonly perceived first like documented appearance when there's actually like some that were a little bit earlier. And one of them is even from what was my own local paper, and I would never have known that.
Yeah.
So with punctual regularity, the light rises in a southeasterly direction from the point of observation, just over the lower slope of Brown Mountain. Sometimes it's first around 7:30 p.m., again around 20 to 30 minutes later, and then again at 10. It looks much like a toy fire balloon, a distinct ball with no atmosphere about it, and as nearly as the average observer can measure, about the size of a toy balloon. Much smaller than the full moon, much larger than any star and fiery red ball. It rises in the far distance beyond Brown Mountain, 6 miles from Rattlesnake Knob, and after going up a short distance, wavers and goes out in less than 1 minute. The observer has to watch the sky closely at the right time or he will miss it. It does not always appear in exactly the same place, but varies what must amount in the distance to several miles. The light is visible at all seasons, according to Mr. Anderson Lovin, an old and reliable resident. During the winter, it appears far off to the south of its usual summer position and is not visible from Rattlesnake Knob, but is seen from a point further down the turnpike around the point of the ridge that hides it during the summer. So basically, these newspapers are presenting the lights as something that like definitely happens. It's not like is it happening, or are people like are they hallucinating or whatever? It's like this is a thing that's happening, and
what is it? Yeah.
Here's how you see it, like what's going on. They claim that there's a theory of the light as a reflection has been disproved, but they don't give any details on how they use that to disprove it. Other than that, the fact that it's been happening for years and miles apart within a few minutes of each other is kind of like good enough for them to disprove it. There are a few legends on the origins of the lights. Some are more interesting than others. To me, the least interesting one is kind of the most well-known, most well-documented one, because it was written into a country song back in like the 40s or 50s.
Oh no.
Like it was performed at like the Grand Ole Opry, and people have like covered this song. I didn't, for whatever reason, write down the name of the musicians that wrote the song, but I guess you can look up the lyrics, because in the lyrics it says, "A strange ghostly light appears every night, which no scientist or hunter can explain. The eerie glow shines like the crown of an angel," and but it's like a pretty badly dated song, and the rest of the song is a like pretty gross romanticization of slavery, because the heart of the tale is about a man and his slave who go off in the woods and get lost, and the man is never seen again, and the lights are said to come from his slave searching for the man, for his master, even into the afterlife, which is like the most white people bullshit I can imagine. Is this like...
If you're just listening to this, I'm making the worst face right now.
I'm sorry. I wish I was looking at it. I was reading, but like I'll go back and watch it later.
It's just super gross. I just don't like...
Yeah, it's not... It's very like, this like super loyal slave who's like remains dedicated to his master even after death. So
Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, that is the most like well documented explanation for what the lights are, but to me it's like no thank you. Yeah, exactly. More interesting, and in my opinion more like credible, if a legend can be called credible. It's the oldest known reports, and this is we're going back to what I discussed earlier, which were the earliest recorded reports, like publicly recorded things. The earliest known reports, this was word of mouth stuff, dates back to 1200 AD, being reported by local tribes, local Native American tribes, who have been seeing it for hundreds of years.
I believe them.
Yeah, that's more my speed. The cause of lights, according to local tribes, state that there was a battle fought around the year 1200, and there were many warriors slain on the ridges of Brown Mountain. Most of the reports say it was between the Cherokee and the Catawba tribes. I should say nations. More specifically, the lights are supposed to be the lost spirits of maidens whose husbands or lovers were killed in the battle so long ago. Other legends give the cause of the lights to the spirits of Revolutionary War soldiers. A family had migrated across the mountains of western North Carolina, settling close to Blowing Rock, which is a rock formation that is part of what is now known as Brown Mountain. At the outbreak of the Revolutionary War, the father left his wife with her 3 small children to fight for his country. After the war, he returned to find only the charred remains of his home. Half crazed by despair and grief, he searched frantically for any signs of his lost family. All day he hunted, and when night came, he continued his long search, lighting his way with a crude torch. constantly roaming. It said that overcome by hunger and fatigue, he died on top of Brown Mountain. Thus it is his restless, ever-searching spirit that wanders over the mountain to this day, haunting it with his eerie beacon. Another piece of local lore speculates that the cause of the lights is from the possible murder of a local woman at the hands of her adulterous husband, who tracked her into the mountains and murdered her there. This story is roughly from around 1850, where a woman named Belinda disappeared in the Brown Mountain area, and her husband Jim was suspected of murdering her. Everyone in the community helped search for Belinda. One night during the search, strange lights appeared over Brown Mountain. Many believed they were the spirit of the dead woman coming back to haunt her killer. The search ended without Belinda being found, and Jim soon left the county, never to be heard of again. Many years later, under a pile of stones in a deep ravine on Brown Mountain, a woman's skeleton was found, and the lights that had been seen during the search started to appear again. And they've been seen ever since, reminding evildoers that their crimes will be revealed. So, there are a lot of interesting stories about what the lights could be.
Now I want to go try
where
to see
they're
them.
coming from.
Have you ever tried to see them?
No, but my dad has tried to get me to go with him. I did not go because I was too scared.
Aww.
But I would also like to, now that I live 500 miles away and it would be incredibly fucking inconvenient to go, of course I want to go. So all of that history and lore doesn't really answer any of the questions of, like, what are they?
like, what the fuck, though?
What is it? Let's get down to this. So, the answer is still hotly debated. For those more supernaturally inclined, the lights are considered akin to, like, will-o'-the-wisps, spook lights, or foxfire, potentially tied into the ghostly legends mentioned already. To the skeptics, there'll always be a scientific explanation. The first known scientist to study the lights was a German engineer named, Gerard William de Brom, who lived in the 1700s. Upon studying the lights, Brom concluded they were caused by nitrous-based vapors being emitted by the mountains and mixing, then combusting with the air before degrading away. So basically, the mountain version of swamp gas, I guess. Early geological surveys in the 20th century attribute the lights to the lights of locomotives passing through the area, automobile lights, static lights such as brush fires, or electrical discharge, that doesn't make sense to me at all. And the car and train explanation has come under some fire because there's an argument that at that time, or at any time, at the majority of time, there were not enough trains or cars in that area to justify seeing these lights, especially if we're going back.
Also, everybody knows what a car light looks like.
Yeah, how is a car light 1,200 feet
in
the air? Like, I don't know. That seems like the most, like, lazy excuse to me, unless you're going to try and tell me that it's, like, there is moisture in the air or something, and maybe it's reflecting light in a bizarre way that still doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't know. Yeah. But that was kind of something that they posited because it was happening so regularly. So say, like, there's a train that comes through on schedule every single night or something, then, like, maybe that's why the lights happen at the same time all the time. But it's still kind of a stretch. Atmospheric conditions contributing to a mirage-like effect seems like it's the most plausible on the scientific front. I guess what is it, Fata Morgana type stuff, maybe? Mm-hmm. Which, like, makes the most sense when you consider the, they go into, like, how the air quality might have to do with, like, dust in the air and, like, the refractive quality of dust, or at least as I understood the thing I was reading, which was not well. But
has anyone gone... I mean, I don't expect you to, like, know if anyone has ever done this, but Are there any, like, reports of people bringing, like, EMF stuff out there?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's something to look into, though. I should look into that.
If you go, you should bring a meter.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's, like, the science trying to explain it, which is essentially swamp gas or, like, refracted light due to air quality, or trains, then you get into science from beyond, is what I like to call it. Or at least that's what I wrote down when I wrote this.
I like it.
So basically, and unsurprisingly, after the 1960s, people started to link the idea of the lights to UFO activity.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there is a local man named Ralph Lael. I'm not sure how to... L-A-E-L. He claimed to be in telepathic communication with the lights, which he said, and here's where it gets a little, he said directed him to a secret crystal-filled cave. But this guy also claimed some other, like, really weird stuff about his encounter and then opened a gift shop, so I'm not sure he's really, like, the most credible source.
Drop the coordinates of that crystal-filled cave.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no denying the location's linked to extraterrestrial visitors in the public's mind, whether that's due to the simple march of time and progress, pop cultural awareness, or a mix of both. And that's why I was too scared to go see it with my dad. It was because it was something that was always in his mind and in my mind and in everyone's mind. It was a UFO thing and not a ghost light thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm less so now, but I was horribly afraid of UFOs and aliens when I was a kid.
Man, I feel like so many people in my life are afraid of them. And I'm just like, I'm waiting. Come and take me.
I mean, a part of me is like, just take me, get it over with. But it's that, like, it's that thing. It's the... I don't know. I can't explain it. Because there are plenty of other things that don't scare me. But for some reason, UFOs really did it when I was a kid.
They really scare my husband as well. And,
well, at least I'm in good company.
And also, your man's is afraid of them.
Oh, he is. He is very much.
It's okay, you guys. I'll fight the aliens off for you.
Please protect me. But it was interesting to me because I didn't hear, like, on any of these ghost stories and urban legends until I started researching for this. Because I thought, it was something that I was familiar with from my, like, growing up, childhood or whatever. But I thought it was going to be, like, kind of an interesting, like, let's throw some UFOs into the mix. We haven't done any, like, weird UFO encounters yet. But it turned out to be more ghost stories and urban legends, too. Which I love ghost stories.
Alien stuff that much. Maybe I should try to find more stuff like that.
I mean, if you want to. I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. There's so much to talk about. But regardless of whether the lights are a form of residual spirit energy soaked into a region, visitors from beyond the stars that we're only now coming to understand in modern terms, or simply a fluke of nature, there is no denying that the lights are real. Like, they exist.
Seen them. They're there.
They're there, but what they are, nobody knows. And to kind of, like, wrap it up and bring it back around, story about my dad. My dad, when I was in my, like, early, mid-teens, he still is, I guess, but he was really into, like, alien stuff, UFOs, and he was, like I said, really trying to get me and my brother to go out and see, like, the Brown Mountain Lights with him. And, I thought it was an alien thing, and I was scared and didn't want to go. And my brother is a few years younger and, like, does not give two shits about this kind of thing. So he was not going to go. So my dad just, I assume, never went. But there was, he had been, like, pushing at it, like, particularly, like, really trying to convince me to go. It was during the summer. I was out of school, and I was staying with him for, like, a couple of weeks. And I remember being, like, upstairs in my bedroom, and my dad comes running in the house. And he's, making a lot of noise, stomping around and grabbing stuff. And he comes running upstairs, and he says, like, completely straight-faced, totally serious, he's like, Miranda, the lights are outside. You can see them right now. I've never seen them from the house before, but the lights are, they're coming up. We can see them outside. Like, I'm getting in the car, I'm taking your brother, and we're going to go drive closer and see if we can get closer, see if we can go check it out and see where they're coming from. And I panicked. I was like, this is it. This is the alien invasion.
They're coming for us.
This is it. It's happening. I freaked out. So I went in the bathroom, and I got, like, super nauseous. I thought I was going to throw up. I got so sick. And I started, like, quietly crying. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen now. What do I do? Do I go with my dad? I don't want to leave him alone. I don't want to be alone at the house if they leave. I'm going to be here alone. I don't want that. Like, I was just freaking out. And he was just fucking lying because he's my dad.
Oh.
He was playing a practical joke because that's what he does. He thinks that shit's funny. And in retrospect, it was funny. In retrospect, it's very funny. I thought I was gonna die. I thought the end of the world was happening for sure. But that's a story about my dad. A story about my dad scaring me with the Brown Mountain Lights specifically. And that's the end of my story.
I love your dad.
I love him too. You know, he's a great guy. But he likes to play tricks on people. So
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Now I want to see the lights.
I hope that was interesting. I feel like
we're all about lights on this show today.
Yeah, for real. A lot of this is the lights episode. I feel like I made a lot of mouth typos during what I just read to you, but like I don't know.
It's okay. We're rusty.
Yes, we're getting back into the swing of things.
I didn't notice either, so it's fine.
I tried to play it off really cool, you know?
Yeah, well, you are super cool, so you're fine.
Girl, no. Okay. Okay, so we will be uploading this, as I said at the beginning of the episode, to YouTube, which is maybe what you want to check out after you listen to this. We are going to be posting a companion article to this on the website, which is ominousglitch.com. Mm-hmm. I will probably, if I can get them from you, try to post some of the still photos there as well. Mm-hmm. And I will post the sources that I read from in my piece today, so you can do your own homework if you want. You can find additional content from us from time to time over on our Twitter and our Instagram. It is at ominousglitch. It's a cute little pink and white skull. You can't miss it. Mm-hmm. There is a Ko-Fi. Mm-hmm. We have if you want to buy us a coffee.
It's ko-fi.com/the XIII club.
Woohoo! So that's how if you feel so inclined, if you want to help us, if you think we're doing a good job and want to help us do a better job, or if you just want us to have a better day, you can give us like $1 or $2, and we'll gladly accept it.
Mostly we just want to pay for SoundCloud Pro.
Yeah, we paid for this past year's, but that will be expiring in a few months, and we want to keep going. Yeah. And we, we appreciate any little support we get from you guys. Give us a like, a retweet, a listen, a follow, a subscribe, and just stop in and say hi.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys continue to stick around. We are going to do a better job of being consistent, we promise.
Yeah, we'll try to also stick around.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.